South Africa's infrastructure and construction sectors are poised for significant growth, with over $54 billion committed by the government for development over the next decade. Guided by strategic plans like the National Infrastructure Plan of 2050, the country is addressing key challenges in energy, water, logistics and urban development. Our public-private partnerships, regulatory reform, skills development, they're all driving momentum in a market valued at $193 billion. And so in this context, Big Five Construct South Africa returns to Gallagher Convention Centre between the 18th and the 20th of June as a critical platform supporting national infrastructure goals. Lindiwe Nkosi, Program and Content Director, DMG Events, is going to be joining us for more to chat further. Lindiwe, good evening. Thanks for your time in the SABC at this hour.
Good evening, Liesl. Thank you for having me.
Let's get into this because we're obviously looking at the state of affairs in our country and our economy as well. And so if we're looking at construction and infrastructure, that growth phase that sees $54 billion being committed over the next 10 decade, as we turn South Africa into a construction site of sorts, tell us what the implications are of this.
This means job creation. This means turning South Africa to our beloved South Africa. This means getting back to the fundamentals of what being a citizen means in South Africa. And this is what we try and do at the Big Five Construct South Africa. And now with our new launch, the South Africa Infrastructure and Water Expo, we are really bringing together public and private sectors in one room so that we can chat about the difficulties that we've had in the past 30 years concerning our infrastructure, but also face the opportunities that await us, opportunities for us to be world class, for us to get back to that status of being Africa's gateway. You know, it's really important for our ports, our roads, our rail, our water systems. All of these are opportunities that exist for South Africa to drive economic growth so that investors can see South Africa as one of the countries to definitely bring their money and their businesses in.
All right. And so thank you for setting that picture for us and providing that context, because if we look at, you know, from a policy level, even just practical implementation at large, talk to us about national targets that come to the fore. Talk to us about the public-private partnerships as well that come as a result. How is this actually going to be phased out?
So Infrastructure South Africa just a week ago launched their projects that they're focusing on for the next 10 years. And these are projects that private companies, public because it's government sort of managed, can come together and start the rehabilitation and building of South Africa. What this means is that your construction companies, your engineering firms, consultants, your architects, your contractors, project managers, construction project managers, all come together to make sure that, one, the projects are feasible. So you've got your development banks coming into the picture there, and they're the ones who sign off on the feasibility of those projects. With the development banks signing it off, that makes way for financiers to put their money on the table, pushing a particular event. So you see right there that it's more than one stakeholder. And this is why we've been pushing PPPs, because you need all these players from across the value chain of the built environment to be able to come together and get the projects off the ground.
Yeah, and I mean, actions obviously always speak louder than words. And speaking about the multi-stakeholders as well, I mean, the issue of corruption also comes to the fore because it happens over such a long span and there's so many people involved. If we're just looking at the transactions that occur, you know, the political landscape as well. If we look at some of the work that is concealed, there's discrepancies that come as a result of that. We need to track. We need to prevent illicit activity. These are reality, the reality on the ground. And I wonder if we could speak to how that's going to be mitigated against for the next 10 years.
On the Infrastructure and Water Forum that's taking place on the 18th and the 19th of June, we have a governance session that's purely addressing our accountability, responsibility, and how corruption needs to be done with. The truth is, investors have been shying away from South Africa because of that very greasy sort of middle that we have there. So this session aims to bring out, to say, how does the Auditor General's report not only be a biannual or annual document that we go through and then we all open our mouths and gasp? How does the Auditor General get involved with regards to making sure that governance becomes really the heart of municipalities, the heart of infrastructure departments in South Africa, and the heart of what everyone else does? For the past 30 years, governance has been out the window. We've mirrored the rest of Africa, and the joy about South Africa was that we had governance at the core. So we are touching on topics like that at the forum. We are investigating on what are the bottlenecks and great tapes that exists that allowed some people in power to take cookies from the jar, and how do we stop that? Could the introduction of technology in construction solve that problem? And we agree to say, why not incorporate technology? Why not incorporate AI? AI is very much part of our lives now and what we do. So AI in construction, AI in the built environment, in infrastructure, what does that look like? Does everyone then get line of sight on where the project is and the deliverables therefore? How do people jump in where there's a delay of some sort taking place? So we have to rely on technology to bring about transparency. We are working on bringing back trust, because in South Africa, you talk about infrastructure, you talk about the billions, and everyone starts saying, oh, it's going into someone's pockets. How do we rebuild that trust among citizens, but mostly among the built environment professionals? And this is why we're doing the forum, for all of us to come together in one room and say, number one, we have to trust each other. But secondly, South Africa is at a point where it needs this to get off the ground now more than ever.
Well, Lindiwe, to your point, your digital transformation is obviously a key component in this 4IR phase that we find ourselves in. But even if we look at how the future of our planet and our people are intricately linked, and this is where green recovery projects also come to the fore, and climate transformation as well. As we wrap up, anything on that front? Is that also going to be a key component as we navigate that, combined with indigenous knowledge systems as well? That's also a key aspect that needs to be
Yes. Definitely. So smart cities is here to stay. And part of the workshop sessions that are free to attend and are CPD accredited, they will touch on smart technologies, smart cities, smart buildings. We're going to touch on BIM. We're going to touch on construction management from an AI point of view. We're going to be touching on ESG standards. What does that look like for the construction industry? We've got Theo Serve, who are coming through, and they're going to be talking about environmental sustainability and how we remain smart, even in the built environment, by managing those kind of standards. We've got Gib coming through, major engineering firms such as SMEC, who have led the smart city revolution in Africa. So we've got these exciting players who've done this elsewhere on the continent. And it's, why not South Africa? Why are we taking our time? Why are we not getting these projects off the ground, using these companies that exist in the country to get our buildings up the ground and the infrastructure back to first world class?
Well, we obviously, there are more questions and answers at this point, but as we edge closer to the 18th or the 20th, I'm sure that's all going to be addressed, and from there, implementation will ensue. Thank you for your time, Lindiwe. We'll leave our conversation there. Lindiwe Nkosi.
Thank you, Liesl.
Is a program and content director at DMG Events, chatting about the Big Five construct South Africa.